There's an organization at the University of North Florida called the Center for Urban Education and Policy. It is run, the director of the center is Dr. Chris Janson. So I'm going to have Dr. Chris Janson come up and give you some brief words about the center. I'm going to also have Christina Kittle come up and talk to you about the Citizens Action Committee, and I'm going to have Dr. Rudy Jameson come up and talk to you again briefly about the role he plays and the work that he is doing as one of the associate directors of the Center for Urban Education and Policy. And I continually say it, if it were not for the Center for Urban Education and Policy, some of us would not even realize or understand there is a University of North Florida south of the St. Johns River. So I thank Chris and Rudy for the work that they do with the center. And I thank Christina for the work that she does in keeping her finger on the pulse of Jacksonville. Dr. Janson, then Christina Kittle, then Dr. Jameson.
Thank you, Rodney. Thank you everyone for joining us today in this commemoration. I'm the director of this center, and I work alongside my friend, partner, brother in this work, Rudy Jameson, but also a great team. And that team includes not only other members at the center, but community partners like the Eastside Brotherhood, where we'll be later today. I see Bruce Bodie Moy over there, the immediate past president of the Eastside Brotherhood, which continues to inspire us to do better work ourselves. So our work is to help the university and the community reimagine how to improve education for youth, families and communities who are underrepresented, underserved, and undervalued by our predominantly white institutions and those working within them. We do this first by recognizing, amplifying, and learning from the extraordinary gifts that exist in our community. And we pay particular attention and respect to the abundant gifts of creativity, hope, resilience, agency of Black and brown youth in Jacksonville. We also reimagine education as a fundamental practice of liberation by learning from the incredible and sacred stories of Jacksonville's Black and civil rights histories. So I'm humbled here today to stand in the long, bold shadow of history makers such as Rodney and so many others. I'm humbled to stand here today with the legacy of Jacksonville's extraordinary and vibrant freedom fighters. It's an honor to be here among such beautiful and powerful activists, organizers, and teachers. It's an honor to stand here today and commemorate the profound moral courage of Jacksonville youth, mostly teenagers, public school students, who 60 years ago today were confronted by a racist mob of 200 white men because they had the audacity to challenge the racism in our community by sitting in at lunch counters in stores surrounding the park where we're in now. It's a deep and sublime pleasure always, an honor to stand next to my friend and mentor, Rodney Hurst, a man who not only led those sit-ins at the age of 16, but has continued working tirelessly since then in his fight and our fight against racism and for human dignity and respect. I also want to highlight that Rodney has himself walked in the footsteps, as he said, of another great man, the master teacher, Rutledge Pearson. Just like Mr. Pearson, Rodney's a master teacher himself. He teaches us every day that great educators are motivated by radical love for and pursuit of justice and equity. Like Mr. Pearson, Rodney teaches us that a great educator is not just a teacher who inspires students in a classroom, but also a community organizer who activates, empowers, and marshals the hopes and dreams of others in order for them, for us, to recognize that we the people, and only we the people, not our flawed organizations and politicians, have the power and agency to make our communities more just, equitable, and healthy places for everyone. Teachers today like Christina Kittle, Both Rodney Hurst and Rutledge Pearson teach us that it's not enough to believe that our practices, pedagogy, curriculum in schools are free from racism. No, Rodney and Rutledge Pearson teach us that our schools and how and what we teach within them must be anti-racist. They have taught me that there are no passive approaches to fighting white supremacy and racism, but it has to be fought head-on, boldly and unapologetically. Rodney Hurst and Rutledge Pearson teach us that have taught me that as a white man, I cannot couch conversations about racism in what Rodney calls comfort speak. I cannot shrink and hide from the difficult knowledge of racism born from a white supremacist ideology that surrounded me in ways seen and unseen since my birth. Instead, I'm obligated to summon a fraction of the courage he and others, all these black youth who showed 60 years ago so much courage, and that my black brothers and sisters today must embody each and every day in 2020 to navigate systems that are designed to oppress you. For myself and other white people who espouse values, beliefs, and commitments to racial justice and racial equity, we have to summon the courage to ensure that our actions match those values. And that requires us to confront the systems that we do have the power to disrupt and rehabilitate. And if we can't do that, we have to dismantle them if necessary. So as an educator of educators, the story of the 1960 lunch counter sit-ins here in Jax are it's the quintessential story of the promise and power of public education. It instructs us that far beyond the technical, teaching is a holy spiritual work that's also the bedrock of a strong and healthy democracy. It instructs us that teaching not only can transform the lives of students, but transforms communities, just as Rutledge Pearson and Rodney Hurst have done here in Jacksonville, forever bending our arc of history toward greater justice and equity. It teaches us that when we strive to unite the power of place with the wisdom of people, that there's no challenge at all that's unsurmountable. It teaches us that when the energy and hope and dreams of our diverse youth are brought together in meaningful ways with the experiences, insights, and perspectives of our elders, we make our communities better and healthier for all of us. Along with others here today, our commitment with the Center for Urban Education and Policy is to continue our shared vision of transformational, multi-generational, multi-racial teaching and learning, and the development and support of each other's moral courage to fight racism and other forms of oppression. We are committed to supporting, nurturing, and strengthening the voices and activism of our youth today, who are fighting against racism and injustice in their schools right now. That's why in just a few minutes, my colleagues are going to be talking about some programming that we're developing over this next calendar year that will culminate in a major event here in August of 2021. I'll leave that for Rudy. But that programming and that event in next August will have substantial contributions and leadership of youth because it has to. Their voices are going to be prominent. Their leadership is going to take the fore. And then we're also going to commit to including them in developing a curriculum to teach Jacksonville's Black and civil rights histories in honest and complete ways. We also know that it's not enough just to teach those histories, that instead we have to develop a curriculum and pedagogy of moral courage. We're going to work and learn from those, like the sit-in protesters in 1960, who have shown such great courage to do what's right, even when it's unpopular and comes with great personal cost. We're going to create opportunities to study and enact moral courage in this time when it's so desperately needed, particularly among white leaders who seem incapable of saying that Black lives matter, who seem unwilling to fight against the racism in our schools and universities, our nonprofits and companies, and our communities. We're going to teach and learn and support the development of moral courage that's also lacking right now as we fight for safe schools, safe from the uncontrolled community spread of a deadly virus that's disproportionately attacking communities of color, and now also making more vulnerable the very teachers who are entrusted to teach our children. So that's how we plan to honor the legacy and moral courage of these community heroes that we honor today, who 60 years ago taught us how to fight with nobility, power, and grace. And we're gonna do it the Rutledge Pearson and the Rodney Hurst way, through unapologetically anti-racist teaching, anti-racist organizing, and anti-racist leadership. Thank you.